It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interviews.
There's going to be much higher expectations, sense of awareness of what we bring to the table.
Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Throws, ends up, yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on in to another edition of the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker back in the building.
Yo!
He is returned from his travels to the far reaches of the corner of our state.
I technically crossed the border.
State.
I went to a different state for part of it.
Yeah, that's true. You did. A lot of things to discuss today on the show. No shortage of topics and drama over the last few days in conference realignment, and continuing to look at how that could potentially affect Utah State, and looking at it through the lens of the Mountain West, other schools in the Intermountain region, and the reports are that the Big 12 is not done. They want to get to an even number, and right now they are not, with Colorado coming over. So more dominoes will be falling. Pac-12 released a statement last night basically saying, they're going to be in the expansion mode. They're going to try to find some replacement schools. So are all eyes on the Mountain West being picked apart, or is it the Pac-12 that's just going to be more picked apart with what's going on, and what other schools could be in flux and moving? And so we'll be discussing that here on the Full Court Press. Always love to hear from you as well. 435-339-0321. I think that what we learned about schools from the Mountain West potentially being on the move from the San Diego State circus from a month ago is that it would be very expensive for one of the Mountain West schools to leave and be a part of the Pac-12 for the 2024 football season, or even to be a part of the Big 12 and part of their 2024 football season. So the question is, does the Pac-12, do they settle with only being 9 schools for now, 9-member institutions next year, or do they start to try to do something else? And same thing with the Big 12. How aggressive are they going to be to try to get up to 14 schools? We're definitely not done with conference realignment and movement within college sports.
Yeah, there's going to be a couple more dominoes that fall. Yeah, the Big 12, the reports being they're going to look to add, I think, one more team to get to 14 teams, at least for now. Maybe they look to expand down the road, but 2024 and for the foreseeable future, they'd be at 14 teams. It would presumably be a team from the Pac-12. I don't really see anything east or in the Mountain West itself that the Big 12 really looks at, because they already went east to get several teams, and now they grabbed Colorado.
UConn is still out there as a possibility. Independent in football, so it's be easy for them to move when they want. Basketball, they have to make some changes there in the Big East, but Big 12 is a really good basketball conference. Might make a lot of sense for them.
I feel like if UConn was in the cards, they would have already done that, because they already went out and got some teams from the American. Passed over Memphis. Like, they didn't take Memphis, but they'd go after UConn. Granted, that's an argument other people can make, which of UConn or Memphis is a better school to add to your conference. But I feel like if they were going to look to the East, they have 2 fairly obvious candidates, and they passed over them. Or those teams, maybe decline the Big 12, which would be weird for either of them to do that. So for me, it seems more like they're looking to the Pac-12. Obviously, I can't guarantee that. I've got no sources. I'm just going based off what it looks like. It seems like they're going to try and mooch one more program from the Pac-12, maybe actually a good one this time, and then they'll settle at 14 teams and go from there. And it's not good for the Mountain West because the more the Pac-12 gets poached, the more the Pac-12 in, just pure fight or flight type response is just going to start pulling from the Mountain West. Basically what the Mountain West did with the WAC.
Yep.
And what the WAC did to the Big West and all that. So
and the Sun Belt.
Yeah, and the Sun Belt. So just it's just this decade over decade, everyone's just kind of migrating up. And unfortunately for Utah State, they're always left without a chair. They've been left behind. They were left behind with the WAC. They were left behind with the Mountain West. Of course, the Mountain West was formed when they were still in the Big West, I believe, but still. They've just been consistently left behind. And if all these dominoes keep falling just ends with the Pac-12 just grabbing the top end of the Mountain West, then we're basically going back 5-6 years, or 10 years to when Utah State was in the WAC. They're the best team left, but it's a mediocre to bad conference.
Well, the WAC dissolved as a football conference, existed for basketball and other sports, but they already have a timeline of trying to get back as a Division I football institution conference.
Yeah, but for Utah State, they'd end up in a
You'd
Mountain
be
West.
members with Southern Utah and Utah Tech.
Yeah, the WAC is a complete shadow of its old self. It was once a decent conference in football and in basketball. Obviously not one of the power conferences, but it had a decent amount of schools, especially when BYU and Utah were in it. But yeah, you'd have a Mountain West, like say the Pac-12 poaches, UNLV, Colorado State, San Diego State. I mean, what's left? Utah State immediately becomes there's Boise State and there's Utah State and some team. It'd be a half decent basketball conference still, but then for the Mountain West, you'd have to try and find somebody. Who's left?
Right.
Like I said, it's just WAC plus is basically what the new Mountain West would be.
Right. Then you're having conversations with teams in lower divisions trying to get them to elevate up, try to appeal to somebody in the Sun Belt or Conference USA. They're already at this level, but they don't meet the criteria, or at least not the level that you're on right now. You have to make sacrifices, and that's what the Pac-12 would have to do. They'd have to sacrifice some of their long-standing traditions of who belongs in their conference. What type of what level of research institution are you? What level of academia do you profess? What's your media market? What's your athletic budget and things like this? So there are no perfect solutions for the Pac-12. Then there aren't very many perfect solutions for the Mountain West either, to be quite frankly.
Yeah, the ideal situation for the Mountain West is for the Pac-12 to effectively dissolve. That's the only one where the Mountain West improves in this scenario.
Right, some merger happens.
Yeah, because if the Pac-12 survives in any capacity, its prestige will get Mountain West teams into the Pac-12. It'll, the Pac-12 will be reduced. It wouldn't be, Conference of Champions. It wouldn't be the same as it was, the 100+ year history of the Pac-12. It wouldn't be that anymore. But it would drag a bunch of teams out of the Mountain West. Utah State very likely not among them. The one situation where maybe Utah State gets in is if Utah leaves. But even then, I don't think the Pac-12 would be desperate enough to bring in a team, from Logan.
Right, Logan, Utah State meets the academic criteria of the Pac-12, but they don't meet the media market. They don't meet the athletic budget. They don't meet the facilities, at least for football. And just so there's several knocks against Utah State. And we're not dogging on the Aggies. It's just that's a reality in college athletics.
It's who you are.
You can't ignore or sugarcoat or put lipstick on. That's just a cold, hard reality.
Yeah, and so even with Pac-12 having to reduce its own standards, Utah State still misses the mark. Maybe you can argue football and basketball, they're doing okay in both. But as you said, stadium size for football, even stadium size with basketball. They could maybe overlook stadium size and look at, the impact of the crowd. But,
Because, look, Pullman, Washington is not a major media market.
Yeah.
And neither is Corvallis, Oregon.
Yeah, but they've got, the budgets and the success and all that, and just the history of being in that, that conference. A lot of teams in these big conferences just kind of got grandfathered in because they were always in them.
Right, yep.
So Utah State doesn't have enough to jump in. So really just kind of going back to the best situation for the Mountain West, or you could just say Utah State, because at this point, Utah State and the Mountain West interests are united, because this is about as good as it's going to get for Utah State in the long run, is being in the Mountain West. And so if the Mountain West is strong, that benefits Utah State. So you'd hope that with the Pac-12, they just end up dissolving, that it just goes kaput, that Utah leaves for either the Big 12 or the Big 10, that Oregon, Washington, Arizona, all goes somewhere else, that maybe Stanford decides to go independent, and, and all that. And basically the Pac-12 just dissolves because there's just not enough teams left. And so what happens is now maybe the Pac-12, and at that point the Pac-12 and the Mountain West just merge instead of the Pac-12 going away. But basically if you have all that stuff happen, then the Mountain West basically absorbs, Oregon State, Washington State, maybe some other team, maybe Arizona State. That's
Cal.
The ideal. Yeah, and maybe Cal. It's hard to say, nobody really talks about what Cal or Stanford would do. They talk about every other team except those two.
Right.
I just kind of assume they'd probably go independent, at least Stanford.
Stanford could.
So, yeah, that's kind of the ideal situation where the Pac-12 just so completely collapses, there's 4 teams left. And at that point, yeah, you'd probably just find some merge between the Pac-12 and the Mountain West and make something. Maybe make the Pacific West Conference. Is there already a conference called the Pacific West?
I don't know.
And maybe the Pac-12 wouldn't want to give up, it's
got
a
the name
100-year
recognition.
history.
Yeah.
It is an iconic conference name. Everyone knows it, even if it's fallen from grace and looks like it will fall from grace. So the funny thing is that for the ideal for Utah State, more has to happen. You have to keep rooting for the Pac-12 to fall apart, because otherwise Utah State's going to end up on the wrong side of the table once again.
All right, couple of texts coming through. We'd love to get your reactions as more kind of becomes known about what's going on with conference expansion. Really, the news today is that the Big 12 wants to find one more institution. They're not done. So it's got everybody scrambling, who is it? Who's in the best position to go to the Big 12? And so trying to guess what that move is and how that might affect. It's a domino effect. Because once one school falls or makes a move, it's going to affect others down the line. So that's what we're trying to guess. So a couple different texts coming through. 1909. This was sent in earlier today. Thoughts on a Pac and Mountain West merger? You could create the nation's first in-conference relegation system. Existing Pac schools remain at the top league of the conference, and the Mountain West teams start in the bottom. The top league gives teams the biggest portion of the media deal. There'd be a lot of drama with relegation and promotions, assuming the Pac stays as is. Adding all the Mountain West's California teams and UNLV for location would make the merged conference the premier and only in the West and the most unique in the nation.
Yeah, I kind of had a thought like this. It was more for a nationwide thing where you take all the Power 5 conferences and you find them a buddy mid-major conference to be a relegation conference. And I might play with that and find one, like a Sun Belt for the SEC and some for the Big 12. I'd have to look at all the conferences.
The MAC.
Yeah. And that's the thing. College sports, and especially college football and basketball, would be spectacular if you had some relegation. Because, yeah, there's a lot of drama, there's a lot of pride, but it's one of those things that you can only dream up.
Okay, so I'm somewhat familiar with relegation, and certainly 1909 seems to be familiar with it. I think you're pretty familiar with how it works in European soccer. But honestly, how much does it really move? How much do teams actually go up or down? Or is it just once you're in the top, your resources, your exposure, you're going to be financially in a position to stay on top and likelihood of dropping or likelihood of moving up, how likely is it really? Or is it just, it's a great idea, but in practice, it doesn't really happen that much?
Well, it's basically, and so the principle, and for those who maybe aren't as familiar with what relegation is, basically you finish at the bottom of the standings in an upper division, you move down to a lower standing. And the teams at the top of the lower one, so like, for instance, in the Premier League, I don't know how many teams it is, but like say the bottom 3 in the top tier of the Premier League, they move down. Top 3 of the second tier move up. Again, I don't know the exact numbers, but that's kind of what it would be. So like imagine the Pac-12, or I guess 10, 9 at this point, or let's assume there's 12 teams. Then you have the 12 teams in the Mountain West. Top 3 in the Mountain West move to the Pac-12. Bottom 3 in the Pac-12 move down. So if you're good enough...
And then how long are you, for what period of time?
Basically a year-over-year type thing. And so something that actually does happen in European soccer is there are teams that are on that edge that just keep going back and forth. But Manchester United doesn't get relegated because Manchester United is good enough to not get relegated. But there's a ton of teams that, can bounce in between. So there's some teams that are constantly battling relegation. There are some teams that are not. So, if you look at the Mountain West, like if the Mountain West were an upper league and they were, relegating down to, I guess, the WAC if we're just kind of playing around, Boise State would never get relegated because they're good enough. San Jose State, New Mexico, yeah, they'd be constantly bouncing between getting relegated and, going back and forth. So there are teams that would be good enough to never get regulated, but say you're in Oregon State, like, that's a team that'd be bouncing back and forth. Utah State might jump up to the Pac-12 every now and again, but then they'd probably fall back down. So you end up kind of with tiers of teams that never get relegated, teams that sometimes get relegated but jump back up, teams that are always going back and forth, and then teams that never even move up because they're just not good enough, except once in a blue moon. But that's the thing. There's drama in that. What if there's 1 year where like an Oregon is threatening to get relegated, or San Jose State is pushing to get promoted to the Pac-12? Like, that's the kind of magic that everyone loves. And then San Jose State gets this whole season where they're playing in the Pac-12, even if it goes to crap. That's still one season, one magical season. It'd be so amazing for the fans, this, extra level of, excitement and heartbreak, frustration and elation. It would be spectacular for college sports. But, greedy, money, people don't care about the fans. And it's being, self-interest, and I get that. If I was, president of a university, I'd never support relegation because I wouldn't want it in the own interest of my university.
Yeah.
You would never want something like that. And so it's why us fans, we can all dream of it happening and how amazing it would be. It's just not going to happen, even if it really should.
A couple more texts coming in, 9315. I think the Pac-12 is in bigger trouble than they realize. I bet they no longer exist in 2024 or 2025.
That's, worst case scenario. Again, I don't feel like the Pac-12 is just going to be erased from existence. Is it in the cards? Yeah, but that's like the least likely scenario. Because as long as there's a handful of teams around, they can maybe pull some things together. But if it's just Washington State, Oregon State, Stanford, Cal, and Arizona State, that's where maybe the Pac-12 maybe no longer exists. Because those teams aren't good enough to draw, an entire conference together. You would basically just want to merge with the Mountain West.
Well, look what the Big 12 did. I mean, Oklahoma and Texas end up leaving. And so who do they have left? Not only they had like real premier football programs that were left in the Big 12, but they cobbled together a few things and stayed aggressive and became the number 3 conference in America.
Yeah.
By not sitting idle and letting things happen to them, they were out kind of trying to control their destiny the best that they could.
Yeah, but they had enough left because like the Pac-12 as it is right now has enough left to maybe circle the wagons, bring in a couple of, G5 teams, basically kind of do a lesser version of what the Big 12 did. They won't be able to match what the Big 12 did, but they'll do something similar just kind of stop the bleeding.
Right, but they've sat on their hands too long, and I think
Yeah.
that's the problem. Whereas the Big 12, once they learned that Oklahoma and Texas were leaving, they were immediately aggressive in trying to find replacements, not just replacing, but even expanding, losing 2, adding 4, and the Pac-12 found out the same year they were losing USC and UCLA. They've done nothing to expand their conference or find replacements at
Yeah,
least.
and I think the problem is there just weren't any options for them to go to. For the Big 12, yeah, it made sense. Poach the best of the AAC, which for years had been arguably the best, G5 conference. Get BYU out of independence is a good, big program. That was all within arm's reach. Who is the Pac-12 going to go after?
True. And the other thing, too, is that the Pac-12, and to some degree the Mountain West, they just suffer from geography. And you're in the Big 12, the SEC, Big 10, there's a lot of schools that are really close to each other in different conferences. It doesn't make it that hard to make that move. And you're out west, your options are really limited. And then when you set a certain standard that's like really high about who can and cannot be a part of your conference, that just makes it nearly impossible to add anybody to your conference of White Tower elites.
Yeah, the Pac-12 is basically going to suffer the same fate as Sparta. Just too stubborn to get better, and they're just going to slowly fade away into nothing. At least relative to what they were at their peak. Here's a history lesson for
Yeah, there you go. I was waiting for you to yell. That's for Sparta.
This is the Pac-12!
Plant your spear in the ground. All right, more on that. We got more texts coming through. I'd love to continue to get your reactions as the Big 12 says they're not done. They're making it clear they want to add at least one more school. Because there was a question yesterday, like, what's the threshold for how many schools in your conference? And I'll admit, I made a mistake yesterday, so I'm going to correct that today. And looking at the numbers and what happened, the news or reports from Big 12 kind of support that. So we'll get into that. And again, how does that affect Utah State and the Mountain West Conference? We'll discuss coming up on the Full Court Press.
Cherry Peak Resort Summer Concert Series is bigger than ever. Joe Nichols, August 12th for an unforgettable evening.
Good day for living. Give me that smile and I'm somewhere sunny and 75. Down in broken Marchville.
Joe Nichols with special guest Charlie Jenkins.
Sometimes that mountain doesn't move.
August 12th. Visit skicpr.com for your summer concert series tickets at Cherry Peak Resort.
We built this city.
Cherry Peak Resort Summer Concert Series is bigger than ever.
This city on rock and roll.
Starship Live. August 18th. Under the Stars. On Utah's best outdoor concert stage. Get your tickets today for Starship, August 18th. Visit skicpr.com for your summer concert series tickets at Cherry Peak Resort.
Cache Valley Ear, Nose, and Throat, the Allergy Clinic and Hearing Aid Center are conveniently located at 2 locations, North Logan inside the new Three Peaks Medical Plaza and Providence on Gateway Drive. Doctors Benyon, Blotter, and Robinette, along with the entire staff, have over 75 years of combined medical experience, guaranteeing your family the very best patient care. Cache Valley Ear, Nose, and Throat serves all of northern Utah and southern Idaho and accepts most insurance products, including SelectMed. Go to CacheValleyENT.com for appointments and details. Cache Valley Ear, Nose, and Throat, North Logan and Providence.
This is Ryan at My Mattress. We have some surprising but awesome news to announce. Purple, the rocket ship in the mattress industry, has purchased IntelliBed, the best mattress in the industry. We could not be more excited. The beds have yet to arrive, but we flew out with Purple, and seriously, this new IntelliBed Purple lineup, it is immaculate. We have the whole Purple lineup and the IntelliBed Purple lineup. Isn't it time to sleep exceptionally? Only at My Mattress, now partnered with IntelliBed Purple.
Advanced Fireplace and Stove wants to thank you for voting them 3 years running the gold medal winners in the Best of Northern Utah contest. With over 35 display models in their showroom, their goal is to make the process of making your home comfortable and cozy an easy experience. With premier brands like Heat and Glow, Quadrifire, and Vermont Castings, they have something for every style, every home, every budget. Building or renovating, they've got you covered. Advanced Fireplace and Stove, where comfort is their business.
Interviews, analysis, and a little bit of fun mixed in. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Hey, join us as we continue to congratulate our gold and silver medal winners in the Best of Northern Utah contest. Like, how about Hart Floor Company, silver winner for carpet and flooring store. In West Title Services as a title company, silver medal winners. Eitel Craft Countertops, gold medal winners in Countertop Supply Company. So lots of companies and local businesses, events, nonprofit organizations that were recognized in this year's Best of Northern Utah contest. And you can pick up your own free magazine to see who the winners are. It's a great guide, great coffee table book to have in your office, in your home. If you have visitors coming to town or new people moving in, make sure you get a copy for them. Over 20 different locations to pick up your own free magazine. Places like Smithfield Implement, Johnny O's Spud Nuts. Here at the Cache Valley Media Group, you can even pick one up over in Firehouse Pizza in Bear Lake, or Cafe Sabor in Bear Lake. So a lot of different places to go pick up your own copy of Best of Northern Utah magazine for 2023. A couple texts coming through. We'll get to those, and we'll get to the continuing discussion about expansion taking place in and realignment, I should say, in college football. But before we do that, a reminder, at around 4:25 every weekday afternoon here on the Full Court Press, we'll continue to count down the top 25 Aggies for the 2023 football season. And to help us introduce the player, our Hall of Fame broadcast friend, Al Lewis.
The Cache Valley Media Group's countdown of the top 25 Aggie football players for 2023. On the list at number 21, Levi Williams, a quarterback. Levi, of course, after a good career at Wyoming, transferred to the Aggies, was a part of the Aggie team last year. He's 6'5", 230 pounds, a junior, originally out of Canyon Lake, Texas, and Smithson Valley High School. Number 21 on our list is Levi Williams, quarterback.
Last year, appeared in 6 games, only threw for 28 yards, had 51 yards rushing. But the thing with Levi Williams is that, as Al mentioned, 6'5", 230 pounds, and did some things in Wyoming before coming to Utah State. And the way we've seen the pattern at Utah State over the last several years, your backup quarterback will get time in the Utah State football offense. Sometimes it's because of a certain package that they want to run, but more often than not, starter probably is going to get banged up at times, and you'll need a good backup to come in under center.
Yeah, when you have a running quarterback like Cooper Lega, he's going to go out there, and Cooper Lega is not the biggest guy, so if he takes the big hit, he might get a concussion. It's not a matter of toughness, just sometimes you're just going to get a concussion if you don't slide the right way. Even if a player makes an illegal hit, that can knock you out for a game. And so, yeah, it is very important to have a backup quarterback, and Levi Williams, he'll be that guy. He's a capable starter. We saw what he did at Wyoming, certainly in a game against Utah State, and then even in a bowl game, where he's a big runner. He's got a good arm. I think improving accuracy. Last year, accuracy was a big problem with him. He had the arm, but really struggled to hit guys when he was actually throwing the ball. But as always, he's a good runner. He's the best running quarterback on the team. Arguably the best runner on the team, period.
Yeah, potentially. He can really help the offense move the sticks, and that's definitely valuable. Can he get the ball downfield? Can he get it on target and on time? Something that he's continuing to work on. But I think I forgot to get my own list. I don't remember if he was on my top 25 list or not. I think he was near the bottom. But, this is somebody that, from my point of view, probably on this list because of what happened in the Potato Bowl and what is the potential of Levi Williams and what Utah State could maybe utilize if he can get that accuracy under control.
Yeah, I didn't put him on my list, or I don't recall putting him on my list. I shouldn't trust my memory that much because I don't have my list in front of me either. But mainly because of I was just thinking ideal situations, assuming that people are going to stay healthy. So in an ideal situation, Levi Williams plays 25 snaps all year. A handful of snaps where he maybe comes in on short yardage, maybe a couple of different packages, mainly short yardage packages, maybe even goal line. But then maybe if Utah State blows out a team, he comes in and plays a couple of series in the fourth quarter. So in an ideal situation, a guy playing 25 snaps, I didn't include him in the top 25, but there is all the potential. I think this is maybe why some voters put him in there. There's all the potential that he could very well be one of the top 25 Aggies. If he comes in halfway through the year because of an injury, plays the rest of the year and plays well, heck, he'd be a top 10 impact player.
Right.
And so me not including him on my own list is more of an ideal situation. But Levi Williams, if he were the starter, would be a top 25 impact player.
If he can unlock what happened in that Potato Bowl a few years ago, this is a guy who ran for 200 yards and 4 touchdowns, was 9 of 11 passing, so accurate passer for 127 yards and a touchdown. He ran roughshod. I mean, he was a force in that bowl game, but we haven't seen that type of Levi Williams in an Aggie uniform yet.
Yeah, and I think he hasn't had a really chance to settle in. The one time he was maybe going to settle in during that Colorado State game, he got injured himself.
Yeah, true.
So he's, I wouldn't look at the stats and use that to judge Levi Williams in terms of potential. I would look back at the Wyoming stats where he was a starter. And the thing is with Utah State, if the reports are true and if what I've seen and read is true, that the wide receivers are faster, Levi could do just fine. He's got an arm to get it downfield. If he can be accurate enough on those long passes and the wide receivers are getting open, he can be a perfectly good enough passer, make big plays with his arm and with his legs. That's all you'd need. You'd be able to run the offense through that.
If it's more of a throw the wide receivers open, throw it into space and let them go get it, that might be one thing. But if he needs to try to get it on a dime, it might be a little bit more of a challenge.
Might be a little more worried. Logan Bonner was able to do that. In some cases, he was throwing more towards space, but he was a little more accurate, and that's why he had a record-setting season. Levi Williams wouldn't be able to do that, but if he's just throwing the ball to great wide receivers, yeah, he'd be fine.
Or if you're going to use him just basically as a wildcat, and you just need to keep sustaining a drive and moving the sticks, then he is a good option to do that.
Yeah, it really would create a true, two-headed running attack. Because Cooper Legas is a threat to run, but he's not a weapon as a runner. He's there to keep defenses honest. Teams would have to game plan around Levi Williams running if he was a starter. And they kind of have to be ready for him to come in anyway. Because, he did earlier last season.
Mm-hmm.
Came in a few times. So, yeah, that running is basically what would make Levi a little more unique. It would change Utah State's offense a little bit, as opposed to just being a unique wrinkle they'll throw in every now and again. They'd become a run-centric team.
Right. Very true. So Levi Williams coming in at number 21 on our list of top 25 Aggies for the 2023 football season. He wears number 16 on his jersey. And again, we continue to count down our top 25 Aggies every weekday at around 4:25 here on the Full Court Press. So let's do this. Take a timeout. And when we come back, we got a couple of texts that have come through. We'll get to those. We'll continue our discussion about the Big 12. Sources say that they're not done. They want to get one more school. And so who would that be? Who fits that criteria? How does that continue to affect the Mountain West Conference and by association, Utah State University? We'll continue to look at that and update you on a mistake that I made yesterday when talking about conference expansion. We'll get into that coming up next here on the Full Court Press.
Forget the weather this summer with York Home Comfort Systems. Now's your chance to get local rebates, financing options, and industry-leading manufactured-back warranties on your new home comfort system. Plus, you can get up to $2,000 in tax credits with IRA 25C federal tax credit. Installing a York.
For more than a century, couples have shopped at S.C. Needham Jewelers. Known for a large selection of beautiful diamonds, we now have both natural and lab-grown diamonds. You're sure to find a diamond engagement ring that will fit your budget. The possibilities today are endless as you select the perfect ring. Show her you'll cherish her forever with a diamond, either natural or lab-grown, from the store where Utah gets engaged. S.C. Needham Jewelers, middle of the block, at the sign of the clock.
No matter what the conditions, DD Auto and Salvage can get your vehicle up and off your property. Now is the time to plan to make extra cash by calling DD Auto and Salvage and moving that old vehicle. Let them pay you for that junk vehicle. DD Auto and Salvage makes it so easy to get rid of your junker vehicles, paying you the most money possible. If you have metal, DD Auto and Salvage in Logan wants to pay you today. Call 787-1204.
That's 787-1204 today.
See store for details.
You know you recognize that song. I'm talking to you, class of 1976. Hi, this is Rusty Allen with LSS Insurance, and turning 65 means it's time to talk Medicare. LSS is here to help. Call 752-9493 for help with Medicare. As your local agent, we will research benefits, costs, and look up prescriptions so there aren't any surprises at the pharmacy. Call LSS at 752-9493.
Join Operation Underground Railroad and Rise Up for Children Everywhere on World Trafficking Awareness Day, Saturday, July 29th. There will be a support and awareness walk from Merlin Olsen Park to the Logan Courthouse. They'll have snacks for everyone and a chance to win great prizes from local businesses. Be at the Merlin Olsen Park South Pavilion by 12 noon on Saturday, July 29th to participate. Look for Rise Up for Children on Facebook for more information.
It's the Full Court Press, weekday afternoons from 4 to 6 on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
It's more important than ever to keep your car in tip-top shape when it's hot, mid-90s. Continuing for the next several days, so make sure you get your oil change at Valvoline Instant Oil Change. They got Valvoline Synthetic, Valvoline Max Life Oil, just what your engine loves. So go check it out. Valvoline Instant Oil Change by Angie's, 695 North Main in Logan. By the way, I also want to remind you about the Do It for Dawson 3v3 Community Basketball Tournament. It's coming up on August 5th. Deadline to register teams is today. They'll still try to find a way to get you in there, but they need to put their brackets together, timing and logistics for all of that. So if you want to participate, get together some friends. They have different age classifications, and they'll have some fun things that they'll do in the middle of the day with like a free throw shooting contest, 3-point shooting, lightning round, and a lot of fun things. It's a community fundraiser to help families and the community. Because this was Dawson Pugmire passed away last year. He's only 10 years old, and families turning that tragedy into a way to benefit the community. So if you want to participate, just look it up on Facebook, the Do It for Dawson 3v3 basketball tournament coming up in about a week.
We got a Cache Valley Media Group team going.
We should try to put one together.
Maybe we should.
You and a few friends.
Yeah.
Get 4 people together, so you have a sub, and you'll be good to go.
Here we go.
Getting back to our Full Court Press text line, by the way, if you want to weigh in about Levi Williams and his placement in our top 25, feel free to weigh in on that. And 2305 texting in, saying, the way you guys describe Levi sounds like he should be the starting fullback instead of a quarterback.
Yeah, I know when we talk about Levi, just where like his running is like his biggest attribute, but to be honest, it's kind of true. Some players are like that. Or some quarterbacks are like that, where their running is more dangerous than their throwing at times. Heck, Jordan Lynch at Northern Illinois a few years ago, he ran for like 2,000 yards. I think he almost ran for more yards than he passed.
Yeah.
So his running was a bit more dangerous in some cases. I know some may comment probably a little tongue-in-cheek, but it's just, his power running is a big deal. Of course, he shouldn't, change position to fullback or like tight end, as some people like to say, because changing position from quarterback to anywhere needs to be done a lot earlier.
Yeah.
Or you end up like Tim Tebow, who tried to pretend he was a tight end in the NFL for a minute and was the worst tight end in the history of ever.
It was terrible.
Everyone thought, he'd make a perfect tight end. And like no. Did you watch him try and throw a block against the guy, and then the way he tried to block a guy is what I would do in the NFL. It's what I would look like trying to block NFL players.
He's been trained to avoid contact.
Yeah, I know some quarterbacks are physical runners, but there's a completely different mindset to being, and there's also technique is another thing. But I know I'm taking this 2305's comment a little too seriously there.
Well, a really fascinating interview this morning that I heard on the Dan Patrick Show with Kirk Cousins, and Dan was asking him about being a quote-unquote pocket passer instead of a mobile quarterback, because that seems to be the way things are trending. You need mobile quarterbacks. Everybody wants a mobile quarterback who can create off schedule, and Kirk Cousins had interesting thought on that, saying like, look, if I'm a mobile quarterback and I get dinged up, I'm out of the game. If I'm a pocket passer, I can be dinged up but still stay in the pocket and make my throws. And so it's you need some combination, but being able to understand everything that's going on the defense and where your offense is supposed to be, instead of just giving up to use your legs instead, can definitely be a real benefit for not only you as a quarterback, but your team as a whole. So I really thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, and not to get too off topic, but like, I don't discount the potential value of mobile quarterbacks. But if you can throw the ball and have all the smarts you need and have all the technique and the arm power and all that, you don't need to be mobile. You could be as athletic as I am and still do all right. Tom Brady threw for 4,000 yards 6 times in his 40s. The guy who ran like a 5.2, tore his ACL mid-career, and 10 years later is 40 plus, and he was throwing 4,000 plus yards, winning an MVP, winning multiple Super Bowls in his 40s. Yeah, the NFL is moving toward mobile quarterbacks, but Patrick Mahomes isn't a great quarterback because he's mobile. He could, not be mobile in the slightest, and he'd still be the best quarterback in the NFL. Josh Allen, similar thing. Aaron Rodgers still doing all right in his 40s. Great quarterbacks aren't great because they're mobile. They're just slightly better because they're mobile.
Yes, very good point. A couple of the texts coming through. Let's see, we were talking about relegation earlier. 9310 says that relegation couldn't be tied to money. That's too much uncertainty for a government institution.
Yeah, the question with relegation, and it's the reason why it's not going to happen, is because there's broadcasting rights and money and things like that tied. If you get relegated, say you were talking about Pac-12 and Mountain West becoming like a relegation-tied conferences. If you went to the Mountain West, you would be making less money. Like that would maybe be the punishment for relegation. Or maybe if you're the Pac-12, maybe the reason you agree to that is that the original Pac-12 schools still get the money. Maybe, but
yeah, you'd have to have some level of guarantee. You'd have to have a floor.
Yeah, you'd have a floor
that everybody can agree on.
Yeah, but the floor would be presumably what you would make in the Mountain West. You'd get less money. That'd be the punishment for relegation. Get fewer TV games, less TV money. Part of the promotion and benefit of that is you get the Pac-12 money. It's more of an incentive to move up, and it helps teams maybe move up and stay up. And that's why it wouldn't happen, is that Pac-12 teams wouldn't be willing to take the risk of moving down to the Mountain West unless they did this weird thing where Pac-12 teams always get Pac-12 money.
Right.
But then that almost kind of defeats relegation to some extent. Wouldn't complete the whole, defeat the whole purpose, but it would partially remove, the fun of relegation.
Well, you have a lot of schools in the Mountain West where the institution fronts a lot of the money for the athletic budget. In Power 5 conferences, it doesn't go that way. They rely on those media dollars coming through, the conference distributions, which are a much higher level. So the institution doesn't have to fund the athletic budget as much. So if that goes away and that changes from $25, $30 million one year, then $6 million the next, that's a major problem for a Pac-12 school to try to figure out that change.
Yeah, and maybe you could say you offset that by just having it be the same between the Mountain West and Pac-12, which again has the same problems of removing some of the impact of relegation, but that would still bring up the same problem you said, is like, well, if you go from 25 to 6, that's ruinous. But 25 to 15, that's still a cut, even if you would be guaranteed 15 every year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. A couple more texts coming through, 9315. I think the Pac-12 is in bigger trouble than they realize. Oh, I think we already read that.
I think we did read that one.
We read that one. Yes, I agree. I think they are in trouble. 8968 texting in. Do you think that in the future that the big conferences are going to be the demise of teams like Utah State?
I don't think there's a demise because there's always going to be room for fans of, teams like Utah State. If there was going to be a demise of, mid-major teams, they would have already gone away. Because, they're already seen as, they don't make enough money and they don't bring in enough viewers, but they clearly do.
The difference could be if we get to 4 conferences and they decide they want to operate in a fundamentally different way. They could just play each other, determine their own champions, pay their players, whatever, do things on such a level that Utah State, schools like Utah State just are outsiders and can't participate in it, then it just creates a different classification. And I don't know if that's going to be the demise of Utah State, but it's definitely going to be a gap that is even greater than it currently exists.
I don't know. I feel like you literally just described the current situation. I mean, minus a couple of things about them, like maybe only playing each other. But even if they formed their own little league, they'd still play teams like, they'd still play these G5 teams.
Well, I don't know if they would. And I guess that's my point. I don't know that they would need to.
But they always want to play, easy opponents. They always have, and I think they always will.
That's true.
Now, maybe they end up counting as like these weird, non-league games or whatever, kind of like what you do when you play FCS teams and non-major teams in basketball. But the thing is, in that kind of situation, Utah State still survives. They wouldn't be thriving, and there may be less money, but they would survive. Would it be worse? Probably. And it would really only just confirm what already is a reality. They wouldn't be able to be a champion.
Yeah.
But they might be able to fight for some other championship, like, the G5 championships, if that became a thing. If all the P5 teams decided to make their own league. Or P4 teams at that point, I guess.
Yeah. By the way, we skipped one over from 8968 earlier. With all the crap going on with sports these days, it's just getting so it's not sports anymore, or not that much fun to attend anymore.
Yeah, it is getting tough with college. College football is kind of going to crap. College basketball is at least going to survive and be a lot of fun still because it has a pretty solid system that works pretty well. But yeah, football is going toward this, rich getting richer, and a lot of other teams might get left behind. So yeah, it's kind of getting a little frustrating that so much about college football is about conferences and TV deals, and it's becoming less about the actual sports on the field.
Yeah, this is an interesting time where these media companies are shelling out big-time money to secure these rights, but then with people cutting the cable and not having traditional cable experiences anymore, we're seeing ESPN lay off hundreds of employees because they're trying to maintain a certain level for these agreements and contracts they have in place. They have to go find that money somewhere, and it's coming to the expense of some of their employees and their staff.
And I wonder if at some point the bubble bursts, and at that point, when I talk about these conferences, they're getting massive. To the conferences at some point, decades down the line, when the bubble bursts, do we split off again into smaller conferences? I don't know if that maybe makes sense, but
like what happened to the WAC.
Yeah, it would be like this weird circle of life where the conferences get giant and then they split. Then they get giant again and they split. I don't know. I don't know if that's really what would happen.
Because the WAC got the 16 teams, supposed to be revolutionary and visionary in how they did things. And then 8 schools, like, we're playing teams that we don't know, we've never played, we have no history with. Let's just get our super friends together, split, and make our own league.
Yeah. Does that happen with the SEC?
It very well could happen again. Another text come through 2305. I like the idea of combining the conferences. You need to try it for like a 3-year trial, and then they could get out of it if they need to. And the Pac-12 and the Mountain West are the conferences you were referring to. Good idea. as a combining conferences. Yeah, it's potential.
Yeah.
All right, we've got to take another time out here in the Full Court Press. Love to continue to get your thoughts on the news today. Big 12 making it known they would like to add one more school. So who is it, and how does that affect the Mountain West Conference and, by association, Utah State? That's next on the Full Court Press.
How many years has it been since you were married? 1 year? 10 years? Longer? This is Jarrett from Jarrett's Fine Jewelry. No matter how many years it's been, you always remember just how you felt. Show her you love her all over again with something special from Jarrett's. We can help you surprise her or bring her in and you can pick it out together. Maybe it's restyling the old ring or upgrading to a larger diamond that she just may have hinted about. No matter how many years it's been, let us help make it special on your anniversary.
Jarrett's Fine Jewelry. Make it special. Make it Jarrett's.
Prodigy Brewing is celebrating their 1-year anniversary, and they're inviting you to join the festivities. From July 24th to 29th, mark your calendars for a week full of fun activities like Pie and Beer Day, Trivia Tuesday, live jazz music, Yappy Hour, beer deals, brewery tours, and more. Thank you all for supporting Prodigy Brewing and being a part of their incredible journey. Follow their social media and visit their website for daily anniversary activities. Prodigy Brewing, exceptional food, extraordinary service, and family-friendly on Center Street in downtown Logan.
Hello, I'm Daryl, the guy who started Daryl's Appliance back in the 1970s. A lot has changed in 50 years, but not the great people of Cache Valley. We love our customers, and we thank you for keeping us in business.
Hello, I'm Daryl's son Jeff. We have 5 factory-trained technicians, which means that we will have your appliances performing at their best. Our parts department has most of the parts that our techs need to repair your appliance on the first visit. Daryl's Appliance, open till 6 weekdays and until 5 on Saturdays.
Hello, I'm Ashley Nate, Operations Manager at Cache Valley Bank. My calm and caring personality combined with my quick problem-solving skills help me provide my customers with the personalized attention and exceptional service they deserve. And I look forward to providing you with that same experience. Come visit the Preston branch and ask for Ashley or give me a call to see what opening an account with Cache Valley Bank can do for you. I look forward to meeting you. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
Breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interviews. It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
For do-it-yourselfers, go check out Napa Auto Parts. If you like to work on your own vehicle, do your own services there. You've got the parts. They've got the all the different fluids that you might need for your vehicle. And they've got the know-how. Napa Auto Parts, they've got 5 different locations between Preston and Providence. So on yesterday's show, we were talking about, is there a certain number that conferences like to get to for membership? And I looked at current membership and neglected some of the future changes that will take place next year. So the Big Ten will get to 16 because they're at 14 now, but they will add USC and UCLA next year. SEC is at 14. But they will add Oklahoma and Texas next year. And right now, with the news about Colorado, Big 12 is at 13. They'd like to get to 14. So who is that school going to be? Seems to be, from the discussion I've heard and some things that I've read starting yesterday and confirming again today, seems like Arizona seems to be farther along in those discussions than anybody.
Yeah, that's a good addition. It's not the greatest addition. You'd maybe like to add an Oregon, but maybe Oregon's either, rallying with the Pac-12, or maybe they're looking to not die like I am. I'm dying over here.
Yeah, I mean, Oregon seems like their institution aligns more with the Big Ten, Washington as well. But the Big Ten has made it clear they're done for now. But if opportunity arises, maybe they start to pursue other options too.
Yeah, maybe we'll see. So, I don't know, I might be done. I might be checked out. Had something stuck in my throat.
But UConn is a potential target. Arizona, there's some Mountain West schools that certainly could be on the radar as well. But that's a pretty big exit fee for Mountain West schools to leave to be there in time for the 2024 football season, which is probably really cost prohibitive, and it's like a 27-month notice if you're in the American Athletic Conference too. So options are kind of slim. More to discuss over the weekend. We'll be back on Monday.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. Whenever NFL training camp comes around, it's only natural for us to get excited. Camp is the time to see the new faces in town, check out the rookies, see if anybody has made any significant strides in the offseason. But all of that optimism can be deceiving. Every year we hear about training camp stars, but every year the media has a tendency to overreact. This year, no different. Over the past week, we've heard that second-year quarterback Malik Willis has stood out in Tennessee. Former Clemson wide receiver Justin Ross has been great for the Chiefs. And first-round pick Zay Flowers is getting a lot of attention for his performance in Baltimore. But a lot of things can change before the season starts. Players get figured out, injuries happen, and the speed of the game slowly separates the elite players. So I wouldn't put too much stock in training camp reports, because once we get started, the truly elite talent will begin to emerge. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise.